What are your thoughts on recent district school closings and the process that the district followed to make those decisions?
Thank you. I think the recent school closings were necessary. So I have to start off by saying that. I voted that we should close one of the buildings, knowing that it very well could be Highland Middle School, which is where my children attend, or one of my children have attended. I think the administration started off the process with honorable intentions. I feel that in the end, after the whole process, we've gone through the whole process, it turned into an extremely divisive process between communities within the district. And that is really unfortunate. I think that I don't want to say too much about it. The decision has been made. I didn't agree, but we need to move on and we need to turn things around. And again, this is where community relations really comes in as an important role. In the end, I will say this. I feel that the board and the administration need to be able to make decisions that not all of us will agree with, but in the end, we have to be able to say that given your facts and your logic, I can see how you came to that decision. And I don't think that the middle school process allowed that to happen. Thank you.
Well, I think it's sad anytime a school district has to close. Again, being on the grassroots committee, I understand the budget cuts, I understand the declining enrollment here in Valley Schools is losing an average of 150 students per year. However, we're also increasing class sizes, and I believe that if we can focus on funding and focus on decreased class sizes, the enrollment wouldn't have been a big deal and have allowed us to close the schools down. So I'm not in favor of closing schools. We need to be able to focus on getting the class sizes down to a more reasonable level, but to do those, we again have to focus on our legislative issues and fight for fair funding for our school district, which again is my #1 priority. Secondly, regarding the process that the district took, I have a child at Muir, so we just went through the school closing issue as I was a parent group. I rely on the school board to make the right decision. I rely on the teachers union to provide me with a quality teaching staff to teach my children, and from that I will do my part to help my children to adapt to any changes that are deemed necessary. However, in hindsight, I think that the process just took way too long. It tore our community apart. I'm talking specifically about the middle school decision, which just came on the heels of the Baker decision. It took tore the community apart. We're 6 months past it, and this community is still starting to heal. And so I think that a big reason for that was because of the fact that the parent groups felt that they could come and talk in public comment, they could give their feedback, they could write the school board, but the decision was already made. So there has to be huge improvements in terms of the communication and the feedback and the process that we take to try to make sure that we're all more on the same process, that people have the opportunity to know that they are heard, that they are listened to, and that their input is valued.
Well, I have to be honest, I was on the school board when we went through and did our first school closing or repurposing of the building, which was Apollo. And when we did that as a school board, we made a concerted effort to go through and look at what the other school districts did, how they did it, and put together a plan to go through and say what worked and what didn't work. What we found worked was the inclusion of the people in the district. Not just having the community forums, but listening to the community forums. And taking all of the information, all of the data, everything into consideration. We had a group of committee that was put together to go through and look at it. We went and made recommendations forward. Superintendent put recommendations forward. We honestly didn't go forward with all those recommendations because of a couple reasons. One was we had additional data that showed the enrollments were different than we thought they were going to be. So going through and making the decision to redo the entire district, knowing that the data wasn't quite there, I know I wasn't comfortable with. But I think we did do it right, and we had forums not only in each of the community forums, a couple of forums, but we went to the individual affected schools and listened to the people, talked to them, and I made sure, as a board member, I actually made sure that I made every single one of those because I thought it was important, because this affects their lives. And we don't think about the after effect. We don't think about some of the consequences that we're not even sure of when it happens. And the other thing we said there was a requirement, which I wasn't elected, so I don't know how much follow-up was done, but was that when that was done, that no kid would suffer education-wise, that we would go through and make sure that we did everything they could do that was possible to make sure that they were done right. The latest rounds, that's my personal opinion and feeling, that I don't think we had that much diligence with it. I don't think we've done as much. We've had forums, and I don't know if we listened. I think that as a board member, you have to put aside all your personal things and how it may affect, and just actually look at what's best for the school and what's best for the district. Also, follow through and implementation. I still think it bothers me that we went through and closed the school and then kept it open for one preschool, which was what happened with Baker. You don't go through and repurpose a school for one building. The repurposing we had when we did it, the requirement was it had to be cost neutral to the district, and those activities that went into that school in the Apollo Community Center was to go through and make sure that they were self-sustaining and it wouldn't cost us anything.
Having been a student of redistricting a couple of times, although when I was going to Huron Valley, it was actually a growth district, so I didn't have to deal with any school closings when I was moved from building to building. I find it saddening that we have had to close 3 of our buildings. I do believe in the long run we really have no choice considering our financial situation. It is not, for a lack of a better term, it's not optimum that we have buildings at 60 or 70% capacity. We're not spending our funds or getting the maximum for our expenditures by having buildings that are underpopulated. I would like to see us find any other recourse than closing a building. I think a building closing of a school should always be a last resort, but it's not something that I would take off the table because we have to keep all our options open in the time of underfunding of public schools and the issues that we're facing.